is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
A very good morning. You are watching News 9. This is Morning Brief at 9. I'm Karthik Malhotra. Well, the big story that we continue to track right here on News 9 is the India-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement. That's right. The deal has been sealed, signed and delivered. We'll bring you the fine print on the show. Also on the show, Chandrababu Naidu all set to inaugurate, in fact, lay the stone, the groundbreaking for Vizag's data center. Of course, this is Google's $15 billion investment. We'll bring you live visuals on the show. And of course, as always, we will bring you the market action with our market guest, Rohit Srivastav. You are watching Morning Brief at 9, right here on News 9. This is Morning Brief at 9 this Tuesday morning. A quick look at all the headlines. India-New Zealand sign landmark free trade agreement offering duty-free market access, targeting $5 billion bilateral trade and creating new visa pathway for Indians. India and the Eurasian Economic Union to hold next round of free trade agreement talks in Moscow in June, focused likely on non-trade measures. Russian President Vladimir Putin meets Iranian Foreign Minister Seyed Abbas Araghchi in St. Petersburg, discusses West Asia crisis and strategic ties. US President Donald Trump calls for comedian Jimmy Kimmel to be fired after a controversial joke about First Lady Melania Trump made days before a third alleged attempt to assassinate Trump. Britain's King Charles III meets US President Donald Trump at the White House as a high-stakes visit unfolds under transatlantic tensions and security worries. China halts Facebook owner Meta's acquisition of artificial intelligence startup Manners, citing regulatory concerns amid intensifying tech rivalry with the United States. OpenAI ends exclusive cloud ties with Microsoft, opening the door to partnerships with rivals like Amazon and Google. Delhi NCR likely to get relief from heat wave tonight as IMD issues yellow alert for rain, thunderstorms, dust storms and gusty winds. And Prada launches limited edition Indian-made Kolhapuri chappals priced at $881. Partners artisans after backlash over uncredited designs. The top story this morning, India and New Zealand have signed a landmark free trade agreement marking a major step in economic ties between the two countries. The pact was signed in New Delhi by India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and New Zealand's Trade Minister Todd McClay. While the agreement has now been signed, it still needs approval from New Zealand's parliament and is expected to come into force later this year. Now, through this deal, Indian exporters are set to gain big access to the New Zealand market. Around 8,284 Indian export products will receive 100% duty-free access once the pact is implemented. In the first phase itself, nearly 70% of Indian goods, including leather products, handloom items, handicrafts and other merchandise, will enter New Zealand without tariffs. Now, this could boost Indian exports and open fresh opportunities for small and medium businesses. For New Zealand, the agreement offers easier entry into the Indian market. Tariffs will be reduced or removed on products such as wool, wood, coal, wine and fruits. However, India has kept several sensitive sectors outside the deal, including dairy, onions, sugar, spices and edible oils in order to protect domestic farmers and the local industry. Now, the bigger target is that both nations aim to double bilateral trade to nearly $5 billion over the next 5 years. Now, alongside trade, New Zealand has also committed investments of up to $20 billion in India over the next 15 years across sectors like manufacturing, services and technology. The agreement also brings opportunities for people. It includes a visa pathway for 5,000 Indian professionals and 1,000 work and holiday visas every year. Now, sectors expected to benefit include IT, healthcare, construction and education. Indian students are also likely to gain from expanded post-study work opportunities. Overall, this FTA is expected to strengthen economic ties, create jobs, boost investments and deepen India-New Zealand cooperation in years ahead.
Today, as we sign the free trade agreement between the two countries, we are expanding that partnership to open the doors for greater business, larger investments, more trust and confidence in each other, and working towards ensuring that the people of New Zealand and the people of India can work together in the years to come to ensure that the world is a better place to live in, and both our countries benefit equally from this new engagement.
Over the past 2.5 years, we have made substantial progress as we invest in building a broad-based and sustainable partnership with India. Today's agreement is the realisation of that effort. It reflects the time, care, professionalism brought to the negotiating process by officials on both sides, and a shared determination to deliver outcomes that are practical, forward-looking and mutually beneficial. India's economic transformation is a global significant story. As the world's fastest growing major economy, expected to soon become the world's third largest economy, India plays an increasingly central role in shaping regional and international economic activity.
Following the signing of the India-New Zealand Trade Pact, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said that India is now preparing to finalize 2 more major trade agreements in coming months, one with the European Union and another with the United States. Now, speaking to reporters, Goyal said the latest deal reflects India's aggressive push to expand global trade ties and secure better market access for Indian businesses. If concluded, the upcoming EU and US agreements could further strengthen India's export growth and strategic economic partnerships.
With this FTA, it is the 7th free trade agreement that I am signing in the last 3.5 years. 2 more to go very soon in the next few months with the European Union and the United States of America. And we would have had 9 free trade agreements with 38 advanced economies, together opening doors to nearly 2/3 of global trade, nearly 65–70% of global GDP, and New Zealand adds vital strength to that arc of opportunity.
And staying with trade pacts, India and the Russia-led Eurasian Economic Union are expected to hold the next round of talks on a proposed free trade agreement in June in Moscow. The negotiations are part of India's broader push to expand trade partnerships and open new export markets. Remember, India and the 5-member bloc signed the terms of reference for the agreement on August 20th last year, setting an 18-month roadmap for discussions. The first round of negotiations was held in November 2025 in India. Officials say the upcoming Moscow meeting is likely to focus on non-trade measures and market access barriers. The proposed pact is aimed at helping Indian businesses, including MSMEs, farmers and fishermen, diversify beyond traditional markets. The Eurasian Economic Union includes Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. Following the expiry of the US sanctions waiver for Chabahar port on April 26, discussions are underway with Iran and the United States over the future of India's strategic port project, with regional tensions adding further uncertainty. The government acknowledged that the ongoing regional conflict in West Asia has made the situation more complicated. Responding to questions, MEA spokesperson Ranveer Jaiswal said that talks are underway with both countries and India will provide updates as the situation develops. The Chabahar port project is crucial for India because it provides an alternative trade route to Afghanistan and improves connectivity with Central Asia, bypassing traditional regional bottlenecks. It has long been seen as strategically important for trade, reconstruction and regional outreach. The US had earlier granted India a sanctions exception in 2018, but Washington revoked that exemption in September 2025 under the Iran Freedom and Counter-Proliferation Act, with the decision taking effect later that month.
Discussion with both Iran and the United States. Obviously, the current conflict is also a complicating factor. We will keep you posted as the situation evolves.
Onto the conflict in West Asia now. Russian President Vladimir Putin met Iranian Foreign Minister Seyed Abbas Araghchi in St. Petersburg on Monday for key talks focused on bilateral cooperation and the escalating situation in West Asia. The meeting came amid growing regional tensions linked to the ongoing US-Israeli strikes on Iran. Before arriving in Russia, Araghchi had said discussions would include recent developments surrounding the war and broader regional stability. During the meeting, Putin conveyed his wishes for the health and well-being of Iran's Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei and said he had received a personal message from him last week. Putin said Russia intends to continue strengthening its strategic partnership with Iran and is ready to help secure peace in West Asia as soon as possible. He added that Moscow would do everything possible to protect the interests of Iran and the wider region in pursuit of stability. Araghchi thanked Russia for its support and conveyed greetings from Khamenei and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. He said ties between Tehran and Moscow would continue to deepen while praising the strength of the Iranian people. Senior Russian officials, including Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, also attended the talks. In a separate defense-level meeting, Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belosov held talks with Iran's Deputy Defense Minister Raza Tlaynik in Kazakhstan, where Moscow reiterated that the conflict should be resolved exclusively through diplomatic means and stressed continued cooperation with Tehran.
Мы видим, как мужественно и героически борется народ Ирана за свою независимость, за свой суверенитет. Конечно, очень надеемся на то, что, опираясь вот на это мужество и стремление к независимости, иранский народ пройдет под руководством нового лидера этот сложный период испытаний и наступит мир.
از من خواسته شده که در این سفر یک بار دیگه اعلام بکنم که روابط جمهوری اسلامی ایران و فدراسیون روسیه از نظر ما یک شراکت راهبردی هست و به همین شکل ادامه پیدا خواهد.
And even as diplomatic efforts continue over the Iran conflict, a fresh proposal from Iran was discussed by US President Donald Trump and his top national security aides on Monday, according to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Now, speaking to reporters, Leavitt said the administration reviewed the proposal but did not indicate whether it was being formally considered. The reported offer includes reopening the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, while discussions on Iran's nuclear program would be deferred to a later stage. She added that Trump's core demands remain unchanged, ensuring the Strait of Hormuz remains open for global oil flows and requiring Iran to surrender its enriched uranium stockpile.
Iran has proposed a mutual reopening of the strait, leaving the nuclear discussion for later in the process. Given that the nuclear program has been a red line for this administration, would the president agree to that kind of phased negotiation?
Well, only because it's been reported. I will confirm the president has met with his national security team this morning. The meeting may be ongoing, maybe not. I don't want to speak affirmatively because I was prepping to come out here. But the proposal was being discussed. I don't want to get ahead of the president or his national security team. What I will reiterate is that the president's red lines with respect to Iran have been made very, very clear, not just to the American public, but also to them as well.
So they're considering it.
I wouldn't say they're considering it. I would just say that there was a discussion this morning that I don't want to get ahead of, and you'll hear directly from the president, I'm sure, on this topic very soon. The Department of Justice is also going to be speaking momentarily following the arraignment, and I pray that this is the last time I speak to you for some time until after my maternity leave. So thank you, guys.
Meanwhile, United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres urged a full reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, saying global trade must resume. His remarks came as oil prices rose 3% to a two-week high yet again, while Donald Trump reviewed a new Iranian proposal to end the conflict. Shipping activity remains far below normal. Only 7 ships crossed the strait in the past 24 hours, compared with an average of 140 daily passages before the war began on February 28, when nearly 20% of global oil supplies moved through the route.
I urge Member States to support the emergency evacuation framework prepared by the International Maritime Organization, a coordinated plan to ensure the safe movement, assistance and protection of effective crews in full accordance with international law. Mr. President, the Charter's prohibition of the threat or use of force applies fully at sea. Navigational rights and freedoms through the Strait of Hormuz must be respected, as affirmed by this Council's Resolution 2817. These principles must be upheld in full and without delay. I appeal to the parties: open the strait, let ships pass, no tolls, no discrimination, let trade resume, let the global economy breathe. Secretary General for his briefing. Safe, unimpeded passage is an economic and humanitarian imperative. The economic shock has been immediate, and everyone is paying the price. Acute volatility in energy and commodity markets, surging transport and insurance costs, and the worst supply chain disruption since COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine. These pressures are cascading into empty fuel tanks, empty shelves, and empty plates. The humanitarian toll is mounting. Delays and rising costs are slowing life-saving deliveries to people who cannot wait. And this crisis coincides with critical planting seasons. Prolonged disruption risks triggering a global food emergency, pushing millions, especially in Africa and South Asia, into hunger and poverty.
Other global leaders are also speaking out. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz questioned the United States' strategy in the Iran war, saying he does not see a clear exit plan as the conflict drags on. The German leader also sharply criticized Iran's leadership, saying the country was humiliating the United States, particularly through the actions of the Revolutionary Guards. Listen in.
Die Amerikaner haben offensichtlich keine Strategie.
The Americans clearly have no strategy, and the problem with conflicts like this is always that you don't just have to go in, you also have to get out again. We saw that all too painfully in Afghanistan for 20 years. We saw it in Iraq.
Im Irak gesehen. Also, diese Geschichte ist.
So this whole affair is, as I said, ill-considered, to say the least.
Ich erkenne im Augenblick nicht, welche.
At the moment, I cannot see what strategic exit the Americans are now opting for, especially as the Iranians are obviously negotiating very skillfully, or rather, very skillfully not negotiating, and letting the Americans travel to Islamabad only to leave again without any results. An entire nation is being humiliated by the Iranian state leadership, particularly through these so-called Revolutionary Guards.
Vor allem durch diese sogenannten Revolutionsgarden.
Okay, we will be slipping into a short break, but first up a quick look at markets which have opened in the red this morning. Remember, yesterday we saw the Sensex gain about 700 odd points before market close, but this morning some consolidation and some correction, some would call it, is visible with the Sensex down more than 100 points. That's about 0.14% in opening trade. We are also seeing some sell-off in the banking and financial services space. Remember, today is also the big day where you will have Maruti Suzuki announce its Q4 results. And you'll also have Eternal, the parent of Zomato and Blinkit. Those stocks are in focus, and we will be joined shortly by Rohit Srivastav to understand the sentiment driving the market mood and what to expect from Q4 earnings of these two big Nifty 50 companies. After this short break, you are watching Morning Brief at 9.
Water overflowing, what could it be?
After a blockbuster first season, where corporate giants and industry leaders ruled the court, TV9 Network presents the ultimate corporate badminton championship Season 2. A battle of skill, speed and supremacy, with a massive 5 lakh rupee prize pool across categories at Pulela Gopichand Badminton Academy, Gachibowli, Hyderabad, from the 15th to the 17th May 2026. The court is set. Let the battles begin. Catch the action only on TV9 Network. To register, log on to www.tv9x.com.
Associate sponsor, KL deemed to be university. Special partners, Campa Sure, Shukar hai, Sure hai. Venue partner, Pulela Gopichand Badminton Academy.
Others see a teenage tantrum. I see you standing your ground. I see you, my daughter, 16 and already owning your story. And I couldn't be more proud. For you, only natural diamonds.
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back. You are watching News 9. This is Morning Brief at 9. Now, after days of intense heat across North India, residents of Delhi NCR may finally get some relief, with the India Meteorological Department forecasting light rain, thunderstorms and gusty winds in the city. The Weather Department has issued a yellow alert for the national capital, warning of possible disruption due to changing conditions. From April 28th, that's today, Delhi is expected to witness light rain, thunderstorms and dust storms. Temperatures are also likely to ease slightly. Daytime highs are expected to fall to around 40 to 42 degrees Celsius, with a further dip to 39 degrees to 41 degrees Celsius on April 29th. Officials say persistent cloud cover through midweek could bring temperatures down further, possibly close to 37 degrees Celsius. Even as Delhi prepares for cooler weather, severe heat conditions across large parts of India continue. Many regions recorded maximum temperatures between 40 degrees Celsius and 47 degrees Celsius on Monday, highlighting the widespread impact of the ongoing heat wave. And amid this latest yellow alert warning from IMD, Indigo on Monday issued a travel advisory for passengers using Delhi airport, warning that thunder showers could affect flight operations over the coming days. The airline said arrivals and departures may face delays as changing weather conditions move across the capital region. The warning comes as India Meteorological Department has issued a yellow alert for Delhi, forecasting rain, thunderstorms and gusty winds from Monday through Thursday. According to weather experts, a cyclonic circulation over parts of Pakistan, Rajasthan, Punjab and Haryana is moving northeast. Rain is likely in nearby regions first, with the weather disturbance expected to reach Delhi on Tuesday and remain active until April 30th. Well, it's a big day for Andhra Pradesh's tech ambitions, with Chief Minister N. Chandrababu Naidu all set to lay the foundation stone for a $15 billion AI data center by Google in Visakhapatnam. But even as Google breaks ground, an even bigger play is already in the works. Reliance Industries is set to invest a staggering 1.6 lakh crore rupees. That's about $17 billion or $2 billion more than Google's investment at present exchange rate to build what could become India's largest data center in the Visakhapatnam cluster. Now, the planned 1.5 gigawatt AI-focused facility will be powered by its own solar and battery storage system, making it one of the most energy-integrated digital hubs in India. The project will roll out in phases. The first 500 megawatts is expected to go live by October of 2028, with full capacity targeted by 2030. What's also notable, this project is set to outpace Google's existing data center investment in the same region, positioning Visakhapatnam as India's next big digital infrastructure hotspot. With global tech giants and domestic players lining up investments, India's East Coast is fast emerging as the nerve center of the AI and data center economy. Let's shift focus now to stock markets, beginning with the U.S. markets, which are touching record highs day after day. And again, U.S. markets ended cautiously on Monday ahead of a packed week. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq posted modest gains in subdued trading as investors paused after that strong run that we were talking about. Now, markets are now bracing for a heavy calendar with corporate earnings, fresh economic data, and of course that key decision from the U.S. Federal Reserve on interest rates. At the same time, shifting developments in West Asia continue to add uncertainty to Wall Street investors' investment decisions. Take a look.
U.S. stocks ended little changed on Monday, with the Dow dipping marginally, while the S&P 500 ticked higher and the Nasdaq made the biggest move with a 0.2% gain. All three indexes wavered throughout the session, showing little conviction in either direction after last week's rally. Leah Bennett, chief investment strategist at Concurrent Investment Advisors, cited higher oil prices as just one reason investors took a bit of a breather at the start of a busy week.
I think prices spiked above 108, but we are coming into a big earnings season and this week and next week. And I think people are really looking towards how are things going to play out? And also, are we closer to resolution in the Middle East? So I think we have this perpetual battle between the secular tailwind from technology, and we have this cyclical push on policy and geopolitical issues. And I think today it's a battle between both, and you don't really have one side winning more than the other.
First quarter earnings season has hit full stride, with 5 of the Magnificent 7 megacaps slated to report this week. Fellow Mag 7 member NVIDIA, which doesn't report until next month, jumped 4%, extending the prior session's more than 4% surge. The company has reclaimed a market valuation of more than $5 trillion. Among other movers, shares of Verizon gained 1.5%, following the telecom company's annual forecast hike due to stronger than expected subscriber additions. On the flip side, shares of Domino's Pizza slid nearly 9% after the company missed first quarter sales estimates. On Tuesday, the Federal Reserve is scheduled to convene for its two-day policy meeting, widely expected to culminate in the decision to leave interest rates unchanged.
Oil prices are on the move yet again, setting the tone for a crucial week in global markets. Brent crude climbed to a three-week high, rising over 2% to trade above $108 a barrel in Asian trade on Monday as uncertainty around US-Iran talks fuel fresh supply concerns. Elsewhere, markets are holding firm with the tech-led rally lifting South Korean equities to record highs and pushing Japan's Nikkei past the 60,000 mark for the first time.
Oil climbed on Monday while stocks held steady ahead of a busy week of tech earnings. Investors believed US-Iran peace talks signalled more disruption in Middle East energy exports. Benchmark Brent crude futures rose more than 2% to touch a three-week high of $108 a barrel in Asian trade. The higher prices have led to inflation worries and seen traders price out rate cuts in developed markets this year. Middle East energy was hit by the conflict in Iran after US-Israeli strikes on the country 2 months ago, with markets focused on the crucial Strait of Hormuz. The outlook for peace is uncertain. US President Donald Trump said Iran only had to call if it wanted to negotiate an end to the war. Outside of oil, chip stocks rose on renewed excitement about AI spending ahead of a week with tech earnings reports. Intel's forecast last week for second quarter revenue beat Wall Street expectations and set off the latest round of buying. South Korean shares hit records on the chipmaker rally, while Japan's Nikkei closed above the key 60,000 mark for the first time. Europe's Stock 600 dipped slightly in early trade. US tech earnings are due in the coming week from giants like Apple, Alphabet and Microsoft. Major central bank decisions are also due around the world in the coming week, with investors betting rates are likely to stay on hold.
All right, let's continue with a look at the Asian markets this morning, and there seem to be mixed signals there with some correction seen from those lifetime highs of Nikkei 225. On your screen right now, Nikkei is down almost 1% in trade. That's about not too much, but below the 60,000 mark after touching that lifetime high yesterday. But stocks on the move include the Kospi Index, South Korea's benchmark, which is up more than 1%, trading at levels of about 6,683. Some correction also seen in Hang Seng, which is down about 0.7% from yesterday. But Shanghai Composite Index more or less flat, almost in line with how the Indian markets are faring this morning. Let's pull up the charts for the Indian markets, and it was a weaker opening, but now some sort of flattening out with hardly any movement in the Sensex and the Nifty 50 from yesterday's closing levels. Sensex continuing to hold above that 77,200 mark. Nifty 50 also comfortably above the 24,000 mark, in fact even above the 24,100 mark. Volatility in the Indian markets is ebbing but still staying pretty much strong at about 18 or so, below those levels of 20 but much higher than the levels of 10 and 12 that we had become accustomed to last year. Meanwhile, the mid-cap and the small-cap index performing slightly better than the benchmark Sensex and Nifty, up about 0.2% and 0.4% respectively. A look at the Nifty 50 heat map, and again, it's a mixed bag market with not too much this morning. Advances and declines more or less in tandem with each other. Reliance Industries is down about 0.25 percentage point, and not too much enthusiasm over that $17 billion data center investment which has been announced by the company in Vizag. Meanwhile, you're also seeing some sell-off in stocks of Zomato and Blinkit parent Eternal, which is due to announce its quarterly results today. Maruti Suzuki, also due to announce Q4 results, is trading higher this morning, up about 0.3% or so. Let's bring in a perspective on certain sectors which have and stocks which have announced their Q4 results and some which are due to, with Rohit Srivastava, founder and market strategist at IndiaCharts.com, who joins us this morning. Good morning, Rohit. Pleasure having you here with us on News 9. We will come to the macro story in just a bit, but first up, the Q4 results which have been announced, two of those announced yesterday and two big ones expected to be announced today in the Nifty 50 pack. Let's begin first with Coal India, which showed that it has registered a Q4 net profit up 11% and massive momentum in that stock this morning. That stock is up about 4.42% or so. A sort of contrarian story to India's oil and gas imports, which of course have been hit over the last 1.5 months, but we are seeing massive uptick in the stock action as far as Coal India is concerned. What is your take on that particular stock this morning?
Yeah, so let me disclose that we do have a buy recommendation running on Coal India. Now, there are of course different angles to it. It's the PSU pack itself has been performing pretty well because of the exposure to segments across oil, not just oil and gas, but also metals, commodities, energy. And so that plays a role. And I think Coal India is, because it's an alternate fuel at a time that we have an energy crisis, that continues to support the case that it's not going away in a hurry, because one of the, things that go against it is that, it's coal, it's something that we want to eventually stop using and move towards cleaner forms of energy, but that doesn't seem to be anytime soon. So right now, it continues to do well. And the second angle to it is, of course, always been the dividend payouts. It's been a heavy dividend payer, and that's why it remains attractive in the form of valuations. So both of those angles tend to end up helping the Coal India stock. But of course, it's been moving up since, I think, January. Even through the crisis, it did not fall much, because people were looking at alternate fuels.
All right, let's move on now to Trent, of course, one of those, the only, in fact, retail Nifty 50 player. It has announced a 1:2 bonus with a record date tomorrow, which is April 29th. Overall, India's retail space buoyed by domestic consumption. Any challenges you foresee to India's retail play in coming months if inflation were to come and hit Indian shores?
So, well, it's tricky, so because to some extent, many of these stocks have already corrected. I mean, even if we look at Trent, it's gone from 8,200 to 3,200. That's a pretty sharp cut. And that's the bottom. Of course, it's bounced back to around 4,200 now, but it's still, significantly down from the peak level it was at in 2024. So we've seen some amount of reaction. So then when we think about things like, consumer spending, it probably gets priced in. What we have to start then thinking about is, can we get the trend in consumer spending to change? Because whatever we will see because of inflation, because of the crisis in Iran, might be temporary, maybe a 6-month problem, but not a 2-year problem. And that is where markets will then start discounting, the 1-year, 2-year kind of earnings flows, rather than look at the immediate effect of things like inflation.
Sure. Stay with us. We are getting live visuals, Rohit, of Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu and, of course, India's Union Minister for IT and Electronics, Ashwini Vaishnav. And these are live visuals coming from Vizag. And today is the groundbreaking ceremony of that massive $15 billion investment announced by Google into building a data center in Vizag in Andhra Pradesh. Remember, this is slated to be a 1 gigawatt data center, which is likely to start operations in a couple of years in Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. Now, remember, this project was proposed with an investment of $15 billion, is expected to be among the largest foreign direct investments in India, and is on the way to place Visakhapatnam prominently on the global tech map, at least as far as data centers are concerned. Now, this upcoming facility is planned as a hyperscale AI data center with, as I told you, a 1 gigawatt capacity spread across nearly 600 acres. Now, officials say the city could emerge as a major AI gateway for Asia. Previously, Chandrababu Naidu had said that the project would transform Vizag from a port city into a global data city, creating jobs, opportunities and new digital infrastructure. Now, this particular Google data center will also benefit from subsea cable connectivity linking the city directly with multiple countries. These are live visuals that we are bringing from Visakhapatnam with Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister N. Chandrababu Naidu and India's Union Minister. Now, both of them have got these shovels in their hands, and there is going to be that momentous groundbreaking ceremony, a pivotal moment really for India as it sort of shores up its strength to create data centers in this booming artificial intelligence investment wave. Remember, $15 billion of investment from Google coming directly into India, among the largest FTI. And there you have it, shovels in their hands, and that ceremonial groundbreaking ceremony taking place right now as we speak. And Chandrababu Naidu, Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, and Ashwini Vaishnav, Union Minister for IT and Electronics.
Let's make sure our guests behind us are able to hear your applause.
ఈ మహత్తరమైన ఘట్టానికి మనందరం సాక్షులవ్వడం నిజంగా చాలా ఆనందదాయకంగా ఉంది. విశాఖ తీరంలో గూగుల్ గర్జన మొదలైంది. ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ యువత భవిష్యత్తు మార్చే ఒక మహాయజ్ఞం. ఒకప్పుడు హైటెక్ సిటీని నిర్మించిన హైదరాబాద్ ను గ్లోబల్ మ్యాప్ లో పెట్టిన మన ముఖ్యమంత్రి వర్యులు ఇప్పుడు
All right, Rohit, momentous moment there. The first sort of data center likely to come up in India. Of course, this has been an investment of $15 billion by none other than Google, and it's an FDI coming into the state of Andhra Pradesh and the subsea connectivity. Is there really a pivot that you see in India's AI play with these investments in data centers? Because just this morning we read another massive investment in Vizag in Andhra Pradesh by none other than Reliance Industries. In fact, upping that $15 billion by a massive $2 billion, announcing a $17 billion investment, also upping by 50% the capacity of the data center from 1 gigawatt that is being offered by or has been committed by Google to 1.5 gigawatts commitment coming from Reliance. But Reliance investors not really celebrating that, at least as far as the stock price goes this morning.
Yeah, Reliance has faced many different headwinds, but just yesterday I wrote a note that it may be coming close to the end of a very, very long consolidation phase. So, but the positive in this entire thing from data centers is definitely the energy space. So directly or indirectly, what we were discussing earlier is, investments from the government are going to go towards renewable energies, energy security, and that entire sector ends up getting a fillip. All the data centers really need that also. And so the indirect play essentially points down to the energy sector eventually that needs to, see a lot of significant investment and growth in the years ahead.
So significant investments and, of course, the significant revenue and return on those investments is also a big question mark. But do you see any sort of direct correlation with India's tech sector when it comes to these data investments, data center investments being made by global and by domestic players? Do you see any sort of direct correlation, natural uptake for India's own IT services sector, which, of course, has not really been a front runner as far as AI goes?
I'm not so sure, because a lot of these services would also get used by international, companies, multinationals, etc. And they look for places where they can set up where the costs would essentially be low. How far Indian IT really takes benefit of it comes down to their own internal IT strategy towards AI, which has been the weak point essentially in markets, and that is why they've been getting beaten down. I don't think that part is still very, very clear as to how they would emerge from the current crisis. The only thing we know is that initially you do see a lot of job losses and job shifting, and that shifting probably happens from AI services to corporates who will need to use AI agents to build their own productivity software. So I do see that shift. It's not like everybody who's losing jobs will not find work elsewhere. There'll be a complete shift in how the industry is structured. And we'll come up with new models and new, areas of investment, I think, in the IT space that will eventually then, change how we operate.
Right, let's move on now to another two Nifty 50 companies, Rohit, which are due to announce their results today. And of course, the first among them is Maruti Suzuki, India's by far the leader as far as four-wheeler passenger mobility is concerned. What are your expectations on Maruti Suzuki? Of course, we've seen record sales numbers. We've also seen record production and export numbers even in the month of March. Overall, how do you view the commentary coming in as far as at least the forecast for FY27 is concerned?
No, I think it's interesting. One of the things that for the auto sector that I would really watch out for and hope for is the interest rate cycle, because that plays a key role when it comes to sales of interest rate sensitive sectors like autos or real estate. And lowering rates has been a difficult part. Of course, we are still getting sales on the back of existing business, or to some extent even maybe price increases or price changes or decreases as we saw last year because of GST. But the final charge, I think, for the auto sector will really come from interest rate changes. And that's something that may be a little while away, because we are still, as you mentioned earlier, in the inflationary part of the crisis. But we've seen a good correction in the stock of Maruti, from almost 16,000 something to 12,300 at the lows, currently closer to 13,300. I think correction has probably happened in most of the auto stocks now. So we'll have to start looking at which ones to really pick within the space.
In fact, Maruti's stock trading at about 13,300 levels this morning. And finally, let's get your view on Eternal, the parent of Zomato and Blinkit, which is also set to announce its Q4 results today. We haven't really seen too much growth coming in the food delivery business, but of course, quick commerce is a different story altogether. What are you making of the Q4 results to be announced today?
So we've generally been avoiding the platform companies, this being, of course, one of them. We are being very careful, I think, apart from maybe one or so, which maybe we end up picking there. It looks like still a very stretched sector when it comes to valuations. Numbers have been difficult to come by, so a lot will depend on what kind of numbers we can actually project. Only putting the valuation based on revenue has been the case so far. So everybody just looks at market cap to sales. But at some point of time, you're going to have to look at what is the earnings yield really, because are you really able to generate revenue from the big, generate profits from the big revenue that you're showing. So I think that's critical to future valuation, and that clarity is still not there.
All right. We will, of course, look for some clarity, of course, in the commentary which comes from the management of Eternal. But for now, let's leave it at that. Rohit Srivastav, always a pleasure having you here with us on News 9. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And with that, we will slip into another short break. A lot more coming up on the other side. Keep watching News 9.
नए बिरला ओपस एक्सटीरियर पेंट पे 16 साल तक की वारंटी है। कौन मानता है? मैं मानता हूँ।
मैं भी मानता हूँ। जिसने भी लिया मानता है। नया बिरला ओपस पेंट्स दे रहा है 16 साल तक की वारंटी, इसलिए तो है नए जमाने का नया पेंट।
When you're hot, we'll cool you down on Cool Street. On Cool Street. On Cool Street. Ooh, I'm cool. Chill your deal. I'm cool. Chill your deal. I'm cool. Chill your deal.
Bhaskar, our first order. Help us build the chutney business from label to website.
Welcome back. The White House on Monday blamed what it called a left-wing cult of hatred for a shooting incident at the Gala Correspondents' Dinner over the weekend in Washington, attended by President Donald Trump. In a first briefing for reporters since the foiled attack on the White House Correspondents' Association dinner, Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt described the weekend security scare as the third major assassination Trump against the U.S. president. The suspected gunman was shot before entering the packed venue on Saturday night, where Trump, First Lady Melania Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance were present. Now, the White House confirmed Chief of Staff Susie Wiles will now lead the high-level security review involving the Security Service and Homeland Security. Leavitt also pointed to rising left political rhetoric, saying it may be contributing to threats against the president.
This is the third major assassination attempt against President Trump in 2 years. No other president in history has faced such repeated, serious attempts on his life. Nobody in recent years has faced more bullets and more violence than President Trump. This political violence stems from a systemic demonization of him and his supporters by commentators, yes, by elected members of the Democrat Party, and even some in the media. This hateful and constant and violent rhetoric directed at President Trump day after day after day for 11 years has helped to legitimize this violence and bring us to this dark moment.
Meanwhile, the U.S. president has called for comedian Jimmy Kimmel to be fired over remarks about First Lady Melania Trump to an expectant widow in a joke made days before a third alleged attempt to assassinate the president. Kimmel had made the comment during a monologue ahead of the White House Correspondents' Dinner, drawing sharp criticism from both the president and the First Lady. Melania Trump issued a rare public statement urging broadcaster ABC and parent company Walt Disney Company to take action against Kimmel, calling the remarks harmful and inappropriate. Meanwhile, Donald Trump described Kimmel's joke as beyond the pale and demanded the late-night host to be removed immediately. The controversy came amid heightened tensions following the attempted shooting at the White House press dinner, with the White House linking such rhetoric to a broader climate of political hostility. Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt said recent language used by Jimmy Kimmel targeting the president and the First Lady contributed to a culture of hatred.
As the First Lady of the United States pointed out this morning, just 2 days prior to the shooting, ABC's late-night host Jimmy Kimmel disgustingly called First Lady Melania Trump an expectant widow. Who in their right minds says a wife would be glowing over the potential murder of her beloved husband? And having experienced what I did with the First Lady on Saturday night, I can tell you that she was anything but that.
Supporters of Kimmel, however, pushed back, defending the remarks as part of political satire and free speech. Listen in.
I heard the joke Jimmy made that night when it happened, and at the time I didn't think it had anything to do with it. It was before this weekend, so it obviously didn't have anything to do with that. So I think any reaction related to what happened this weekend just doesn't make sense to me.
I think Disney and ABC are extremely lucky that Donald Trump wasn't assassinated on Saturday for 2 days after Jimmy Kimmel made the joke about expectant widow. If that had happened, there would be a backlash against them like they've never seen before. So I think they are extremely lucky, and they would be very smart to get this guy off the air, especially when there's so many non-political comedians that are good that could replace his show.
Britain's King Charles III met U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House on Monday, kicking off a high-profile state visit under the shadow of rising U.S.-UK tensions. The meeting comes amid growing differences between traditional allies, the U.S. and the U.K., over the Iran conflict. Now, despite the strains, both sides projected warmth in public, and King Charles and Queen Camilla receiving a ceremonial welcome from President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. The 4-day visit of the British royalty to the U.S. is meant to mark the deep historical ties between the two nations, even as disagreements with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer simmer behind the scenes. King Charles is also set to address a joint session of Congress, where he's expected to highlight a shared history of reconciliation and renewal of both countries. The visit underscores a delicate moment in transatlantic relations, balancing symbolism with strategic differences. Well, a growing internal revolt at one of the world's biggest tech companies. More than 600 employees at Google have urged CEO Sundar Pichai to reject a proposed Pentagon deal that would deploy its Gemini AI model in classified military operations. The letter, signed by staff across divisions, including DeepMind and Cloud, warns that such use could risk harm, citing concern over surveillance and lack of transparency. At the center of the debate is whether inbuilt AI safeguards can truly prevent misuse, especially in classified settings where oversight is limited. The move comes as Google looks to expand its defense business, competing with rivals for lucrative government AI contracts. It also echoes a 2018 employee backlash that forced the company to exit a military drone project. For now, the deal remains under negotiation, but the pushback highlights deep divisions over the role of AI in warfare. Staying with AI, China has blocked US tech giant Meta's acquisition of AI startup Manus, the country's top economic planning body said on Monday, after a regulatory review that reportedly also saw Beijing restrict two Manus co-founders from leaving the country. Facebook owner Meta had agreed to acquire Manus, an artificial intelligence agent created by startup Butterfly Effect in China, but now based in Singapore, in December last year. Analysts, however, had warned even then the deal could fall due to regulatory concerns at a time of fierce technological rivalry between Washington and Beijing. Now, Beijing's National Development and Reform Commission said in a statement on Monday that it will prohibit the foreign investment in the acquisition of the Manus project and requires the parties involved to withdraw the acquisition transaction without directly naming Meta. Meta told AFP in a statement that the transaction complied fully with applicable law. Meta said in December that the deal, the financial details of which were not disclosed, would bring a leading agent to billions of people and unlock opportunities for businesses across products. And that's all we have for you on this edition of Morning Brief at 9. Thank you so much for watching. News continues right here on News 9.
Ahead of 2026 West Bengal Assembly election, polarization in West Bengal sharpens.
टीएमसी सरकार के जाने का काउंटडाउन शुरू हो चुका है।
हम डिटेक्ट, डिलीट और डिपोर्ट ये पॉलिसी के तहत एक एक घुसपैठियों को बंगाल के बाहर निकालने का काम करेंगे।
There are three prime issues: citizenship, border, identity. Is it the Nirmam Sarkar versus May J. Babu?
যতই করো হামলা জিতবে কিন্তু বাংলা।
Who will retain the throne in West Bengal? Can West Bengal look beyond the muddy water of violent politics?
From the ground, the questions that matter, the voices that shape the vote. India votes only on News 9.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen.